Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for that. Next, we are going to have Stephanie Austin, and she's the author of Something I Might Say, a CNF chapbook with WTAW Press, and her debut novel, Burn, will be out on February 3rd, 2026. You can find out more and read more of her work at stephanieaustin.net. So I'll turn it over to Stephanie. Thank you.
Hi everyone. So I'm cold, and it's not a sexy voice cold. It's a nasal, it's the nasal voice cold. But that's okay. Gonna push through. Um, Hopefully I don't start coughing. Hopefully. And thank you, Melissa. Also, first of all, Barbara, like very hard to follow that. Like, I gotta get on that. That's in my inbox right now, and I'm gotta get on that. Thank you so much, Melissa, for asking me to do this, and thank you for what you organized in LA, and maybe hopefully we'll organize something for Baltimore. It'll be awesome. So yeah. All right. So disregard, just pretend I'm not a nasally happy back to school cold. So I'm gonna set my timer. I'm gonna read, I have a news story out from Bull. It's like on my socials. It's called Sunglasses for Whole People. I thought about reading from my novel, but this is like presently out, so this is what I'm gonna do. Okay. Sunglasses for Whole People. John speared a piece of his Panda Express orange chicken and put it in his mouth. The food court at the mall was loud, and still I could hear his chewing, his suckling. Completely undid that piece of orange chicken before swallowing. We were not all afforded this luxury. John dribbled orange sauce on his tie that he'd forgotten to put over his shoulder. I pushed a napkin at him. The real and exhausting work of a relationship was stupid. John's coworker, also named John because the name John crosses generational naming boundaries, passed us holding a tray with a hamburger and wiggled his shoulder. Check it out, coworker John said. He's back. My John, who was facing in the direction other John indicated, said, "Holy shit." I stretched to get a look. The man in question wore a three-piece suit and looked like a blurry photograph from the late 70s. Handlebar mustache, big Coke bottle glasses. He was familiar, but I couldn't place him. When I turned back, my John was eating the cookie that came with my sandwich. When we met for dinner back then, John always got Panda Express, and I'd get a turkey sandwich and a cookie from this place at the corner of the food court that feels like it was a Panera, but I don't think Panera was ever in malls. I got you your own cookie, I said. You never eat your own cookie, he said. You take one bite and then give it to me. So I saved us the trouble today. You don't recognize that guy? The man moved the paper up like a cartoon spy in disguise. Coworker John smiled at me. By the way, huge congratulations, welcome to the club, then moved a table away where he sat across from a woman I recognized as his wife. She wore a dress and had one hand on a baby stroller. And I'm not trying to be shitty because I don't like when people say this about me, but she looked exhausted, just completely fucking wrecked because that baby was like 8 months old and John told me she was pregnant again. Her hair was pulled back and she stared off like she couldn't figure out who she was. They bowed their heads in prayer before eating their burgers. That's Ron Goldman's dad, John said. Oh God, I said, lowering my voice. It is. Why is he in the mall? He works at Nordstrom. He does? Why does Ron Goldman's dad work at Nordstrom? He's a regular person, John said. We both stared at him, Ron Goldman's dad reading his newspaper. What's in the paper today? Is there something about OJ? No one reads the paper anymore, John said. He put a napkin over his empty plate and brushed my cookie crumbs off his hands. John's break was almost over. He had to go back to the rich person's store he worked in, Carter Bishop, a fancy place on the second floor where a polo shirt was $145. And this was 2005, so imagine how much it would cost now. The mall used to be the rich person's mall, but somewhere in the late 2010s, all the high-end stores moved north. To give you some perspective back then, Barney's was the anchor store. And sometimes after meeting up with John, I'd walk through it, pretending like I'd come back someday with my grown up money. Barney's was an ocean of beige, vast and unending and full of perfect clean lines. The store crafted and laid out this way on purpose to mimic the soothing ease in which a person with money lives their life. Like I dare you to feel a sense of calm and possibility in a Walmart aisle. Should we say something? I asked. Say something? About what? Well, you know. You think we should walk up to him on his break and tell him we know who he is, the father of a murdered person? He's a guy in a mall. Leave him alone. Don't make it a thing. You make everything a thing, John said. What does that mean? I asked. I make everything a thing? I don't make anything a thing. You do all the making of things. John stood and picked up his tray. I picked up my tray. We walked to the trash together. Hey, John asked, what was the last thing Nicole Brown Simpson said? He pushed in the greasy trash lid and took his plate and food and shook his plate and food inside, then plopped it on top with the other trays. She said, I should have had a V8. That's not funny, John laughed. OJ killed 2 people. Well, I know, I was kidding, and also technically he was found not guilty. Ron Goldman was kind of hot, I said. I even thought it back then. And he was nice, a gentleman. He brought back her sunglasses. That's why he was at her house. He was returning her glasses. I pushed the flat back on the trash can and shook my own garbage, then tossed my tray on John's tray because I like to be on top. Yeah, John said. Where did that get him? We walked we walked together toward the escalators. John picked up my hand, held it up, looked at my engagement ring again, a half-carat princess cut. You think Ron Goldman was hot? He asked. I do. Jesus, he said. And that is it. I will end it there. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. That reminds me
Ha.
of one of my stories in my collection. It mentions Orange Julius, so also some mall references there from like the 1990s. So thanks for reading. So our next reader that we have is Megan Hanlon. And so Megan is someone that I've been lucky enough to publish in Roy Fayent. And I've read a lot of her stuff. She's an amazing CNF writer. So she is also a podcast producer who sometimes writes. Her words have appeared in 24 literary magazines, including The Forge, Gordon Square, Rec and Review, South Florida Poetry Journal, Variant Literature, Cowboy Jamboree, and more. If you're on social media, you might know her as Sugar Pig, and her blog is equal parts tragedy and comedy. So I'm very excited to have Megan read with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And I wanted to say I'm so honored that you asked me to be here, and huge congratulations. It's such an accomplishment for you to put out your first book. So congratulations on that. Today I'm going to read a CNF piece that appeared in Cowboy Jamboree magazine earlier this spring, and it is called 14. Before you dropped Joe and me at her car, the color of a bruise, and lied, saying you hoped we could still be friends. Before the aching, silent ride, your truck slicing the thin morning. Before I searched the dark camp and found Joe and pleaded with her to go home. Before I laid in the bed alone under a scratchy blanket, cold and confused and humiliated. Before it became bitterly clear you had staged the fiery argument. Before you and Travis stood outside, your cruel laughs rising through the shivering pine limbs. Before you barged into the cabin, calling me a whore and accusing Travis of getting some when you couldn't. Before someone began kissing me, but differently. Before the moon hung high and white while I was trying to sleep, and the cabin door creaked and a warm body crawled in bed next to me. Before you got angry and spiteful at my refusals and slammed the cabin door on your way into the night. Before I pushed you off of me with a shriek of stop. Before you yanked on a button of my Arizona jeans. Before I pushed your roughed hands away. Before you began kissing me and tried to slide your palms under my Aztec print sweater. Before we laid in pitch black as deep as longing in the single bed in the smaller cabin. Before we returned from our errand to find Joe and Travis and Mark had taken the beds in the bigger cabin. Before you gave me my very first kiss, so soft, while sitting in your truck on the trail that wound back to camp, and I was so nervous I trembled. Before somebody ran out of hard-packed Marlboro Reds and you offered to drive back to the gas station and asked if I wanted to come. Before everybody but me, all seniors that year, save for Joe, who had graduated, drank Goldschlager with fluttery flakes and sucked on cigarettes and talked around the orange bright bonfire reaching to touch the sky. Before my friend Joe and I met up with you at a gas station glowing bright as a house to go with you and your friends, Travis and Mark, to a camp at your deer lease deep in the woods. I was just a 14-year-old girl who didn't know any better. Thank you.
Oh, Megan, thank you so much for that. It was really perfect. So I know we have some heavy stuff that some people have read today, so we'll see what's up next. We have Sabrina, who I have not met in person, only online. But I'm excited to have her with us today. So Sabrina Hicks has work that has appeared in Best Small Fictions, Best Microfictions, and Wigleaf Top 50. She's an author of the forthcoming collection Coyote Girl, to be published by Cowboy Jamboree in 2026. So I'll let Sabrina get started.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Melissa, and congratulations to you. Megan, that was a very powerful piece, so thank you for that. I'm going to read, is it okay if I read two pieces? Because they're flash. So I didn't want to, have it be very quick. So I'm reading, the first one is Little Lady, which was published at Tramset. I've been here before, gunslinging in the bottom of a dust bowl, surrounded by prairie sprawl, wrapped in a rim of mountains. I bend down, roll a handful of dirt in my sweaty palms, press the pebbles deep, catch the remnants of a bottle thrown from a corner saloon. A shard of glass I squeeze tight. The blood helps the grit stick. I check the clock, hear it strike 12. It's always high noon. They call me little lady behind my back, but if they say it to my face, I liquor them up, purr in their ear, tell them to meet me in the center of town, and when they do, they come laughing until I sink a bullet in their gut, turn their laughter into surprise, and surprise is how they die. Winner takes all. That's what keeps me gunslinging and not dancing on a stage, tits out in a frilly dress, staring into the eyes of men, or teaching children in a one-room schoolhouse, because I ain't interested in being respectable, and I ain't interested in being a whore, and those are the only two options in this one-horse town, so I created a third. This man I've seen 100 times before, smug and self-righteous, so sure of his place in this world before I displace him. He smiles at me. I blow him a kiss. The audience calls it the kiss of death. They love a good show, help them forget their lives for a flash, to watch and jeer before going back to their shopkeeping and banking, drinking and leaning on wooden posts with toothpicks between their teeth like they're on a movie set, because they are. We all are. The least we could do is choose our role. I can't shoot a woman, says the man who had no problem sticking his whiskey tongue in my ear, pinching my ass as I hitched my horse to a tree last night. The same man I caught forcing himself on one of the dancers. The same man every time. Then this shouldn't take long, I say. My younger sister found the Lord and doesn't approve of my life choices, tries to appeal to my softer side, but my softer side is leather, not lace. She tells me I wouldn't be able to live with myself, but I'm living just fine. I tell her maybe I had a heart a long time ago, but it's long gone because I feel nothing for these men I purge. She says, remember, Daddy, how we tried to do right by us when Mama died? But the man I remembered showed me how to quick draw, how to clean a gun, how to stare evil in the eye and spit back. Told me I should have been born a son. Told me it's a man's world, trust no one, and to hide my beauty because it ain't worth the trouble. Then he kicked me out saying I wasn't welcome back until I made something of myself. This man before me has no interest in abiding by the rules we set forth, the meeting of our backs, the walking of paces, the heel-toe of suspense. He wants to get right to the action, right to the moment of death and surprise, wants to know what I whisper in their ear as they beg for their Lord, their mama, their life. The rumors are, I say, see you in hell. Tell him a secret I don't tell anyone. Say, bang, bang, motherfucker. But no matter how many times I've been at this, they all have the same scolded schoolboy look, so I don't vary the script. I whisper, call me little lady one more time, and then I wait. Not one of them took me up on this offer, and this man standing before me, quietly shaking in his boots, hand going for his piece, but not nearly in time, won't either. Soon he'll know his place. Thank you. The next one is Cowboy Titanium, which was anthologized in Texas Wind, which was published by Cowboy Jamboree. I told the cops I didn't know Dale was going to rob the Mountaineer Mini Mart, only found $78 on his close to dying body after the cashier shot him in the back. I could have told him it wouldn't be worth his time, that nobody carried cash no more. As far as I knew, he was putting $15 worth of diesel in his truck and buying me a pack of Cools, though I don't think he had enough money for the tax on the smoke, seeing how the state is trying to break everybody of their bad habits, just like Mama tried to break me of my Dale habit. Dale rode the rodeo, wore a big old belt buckle and cowboy hat, kept his rifle racked in the back window of his Chevy next to his Blue Lives Matter sticker. Insurance, he called it. He'd been working at the Piney Pink Mine for the last year, a job that wasn't paying the hospital bills he'd accumulated on account of his bull riding days. Said he was more titanium than man after his surgeries and would stick to broncs. Said he couldn't go through metal detectors. Said magnet stuck to his body. I'm made of steel, baby. Cowboy titanium. Made me call him the Terminator when we started dating, all 150 pounds of him. He came from West Texas, what he called God-fearing country, though after visiting his mama in that dust town, I only saw fear, no sign of God. Dale didn't die that day. The clerk who shot him hit a mail plate deep inside him. Titanium saved him. No God in that neither. What saved me was the bullet that finally found the soft, fleshy part of his organs after he held me down, screaming at me to call him the Terminator. I reckon I broke my Dale habit that night. Haven't had a smoke since neither. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina, for those two awesome pieces. Those are great. So Tiff has her camera off, so I don't know if she wants to read something. But if
I'm
you would like to
sorry,
read
I
something,
do.
it's okay.
I apologize.
Um,
My upstairs neighbor is vacuuming right now, so if y'all hear like a whir whir
do you want
vacuum sound, we're in
okay.
trouble. But I'll go ahead.
Okay.
All right. So I was trying to figure out how to fill like 7-ish minutes per the email. So I have 4 poems and I am nervous and shy, so I'll probably just read them really fast. So probably won't be 7 minutes. So an earlier version of this first poem was published in Raw Lit, I think 2 years ago. So shout out to Delphine. This poem is called About Poncho and Lefty. Got a little ash in my mouth today. Said lightning struck a forest floor, or maybe it was some discarded lipstick grazed cigarette filter still lit beside a crushed roadside Topo Chico. At least they cared enough to put themselves together first. But southwestern wind carries 200 miles, 24 hours, 2 lakes blackened, bare and lapping, burnt orange bathed treetops, silent, seemingly solicitous to reach me. I reckon with my younger self, apologizing for ash in my mouth, for tossed lipstick filters, for crushed water vessels, for lessons unlearned, for songs that play to remind me of the way people lace together and bind your pale blue eyes lingering on. For hundreds of days, hundreds of miles, through every dawn in muted shades like aching, like almost, through noise and broken walls and the vast banal to reach me. Still, I wonder, if I lit a fire, how long would it take for you to taste it? All right. The next poem is called Honey Cave, and this one was inspired by the CoStar app of all goddamn things. I heard somewhere, my heart is a cave full of honey, dark and deep, for your fingers slip 1, 2, maybe 3. Pull out before you snip the sinewy ropes keeping the universe in place. Place your finger in your mouth. Taste the soft, sweaty sting. Don't forget the toiling of the bees that came before, half collapsed under their hate, weight, the plight of the working man. Every nick an omen, every scar a song. Long day's labor for a nobody queen. Every smashed stalagmite was tight, but got it good and cauterized, then hung it out to dry. So wet your whistle, speak in tongues, Wind up your worship to a shocked spasm and wait a beat or two before your eyes start to wander. All right, the next one has a title or a date for a title. I'm sorry. It's 12/4/24, which is the date I wrote this. This is noteworthy because it is one of the few times I said I'm going to go write a poem and actually did. And also because I'm shit at titles. It's about processing the election on an empty beach in Alabama. With bruises landlocked, I sit opposite an ocean, bound up, nylon-clad legs crossed at the knee, a dam, breaking up flow to flow, you know? I ask for its secrets, wet whispered, in a hum like a trance. I don't really want to know. Want barricades pierced, my thick air and fishnet armor, the best I could muster. I want the sound without the meaning, the sweeping arch without the cold. I want the frothy green finality without what's done is done. Okay, so that was number 3. One more. And this one is untitled, and I put a note here that said, so far. So there's hope. 5 a.m. and the quiet is somehow blaring. I am bleary, barely awakened by a whining ball of curls lapping at the back of my right hand. I toy with trickery, closing my eyes till I hear the sound again. I say, I'm coming. I'm sorry. Well, she emerged from the only earthly place she feels safe, under my bed and further from me than I'd like, but we accept the love we think we deserve, or so they say. So it's boots on and out into the black post-daylight savings pre-dawn, biting chill against the buried too soft skin not made for the single digits I'm bathed in. Like pretty desert-dwelling boys in deserted ring hideouts, boxed in, shadow boxing red dust ghosts, praying their brutality will cleanse them. But we accept the love we think we deserve, or so they say. So I keep the leash in one hand, the other fucking around in the iPhone glow, desperate for some voice that isn't mine. Run my tongue over the gum gap where something living used to grow. Play philosophical. Think about where she'll go when she's gone and how I can prevent it through sheer force of will. Or if I'll get her back, maybe somebody's newborn, maybe a snow white ghost, maybe an endless circle. The kind that sharpens or dulls the biting cold, that keeps desert boys swinging at air, that keeps me penning odes to mundane humanity, the kind that keeps hard plastic barrettes precarious in precocious girls' braids, also precarious, ill-fitting and isolated. From 32 years ago, today I say I'm coming, I'm sorry. Thank you for listening, everybody. I'm a shush now.
Thanks, Tiff. And I didn't have a bio for you, but for those who don't know, Tiff is the editor-in-chief of Roy Fayant Press, and she's an amazing writer, and she's been so helpful in my writing career because they're one of the early places that published me, and they've been really encouraging. They let me be a guest editor, and then they invited me to be an editor forever. So, it's been really a fun ride. So our next reader that we have before I'll read from my book is Kelly Scott Reed, who is also an editor at Roy Fayant Press, and she's just an amazing human being. And I don't know what she's reading today, but I know she's like such a sweet, nice person. And then she always writes these super dark stories. So I'm interested to see what she has for us today.
Right. Well, Melissa, first of all, I'm going to make it quick. I have 3 really short pieces because I only write short pieces. But also, I'm super proud of you. You're really amazing. You're like the James Brown of the publishing world, the hardest working woman in publishing. Honestly, you are wonderful. Um, for our press, you're amazing, and I'm just proud that you asked me to do this. And I'm humbled by everyone here. I'm just unbelievable. So my first piece is called Sticky Fingers. All of the pieces I write have a grain of truth in them, some real story in them that have happened to me or that are personal. So see if you can guess what these things are. And they're very dark. So Sticky Fingers. With your head turned away, I could smell your unwashed hair. Girls think they can get away with this. A little dry shampoo and voila, but it doesn't work. You can smell the weed from the night before. You can smell the fear. I put my hands over your mouth. Sticky fingers, they used to call me as a kid, always taking what wasn't mine. I grew up in the care of my Irish Catholic grandmother, who spared no rod but ruined the child anyway. I would nick her pocketbook when she passed out on the couch. A night of bridge with her friends sent her to the sofa with a headache and a vodka rocks. She would notice in the morning that I'd be beaten and dragged to the confession box to tell of my transgression. I knew that Jesus didn't give a fuck what I did. I knew the first night after my parents dumped me with that banshee, and I went to bed with my stomach rumbling and my eyes swollen from crying. I was 8. A priest once told me as we sat smoking a cigarette together on my grandmother's front porch that every sin is essentially theft. We were sitting on the old glider. It groaned under his weight and didn't move an inch. Enormous. He showed up to my grandmother's on the weekends to administer her communion when she was too decrepit to attend church. He would sometimes order a large pizza that he alone would consume while he visited. He was one of the good ones. He wasn't a child fucker. The way we must look from the view of the security camera, me pressed against your body from behind, we could be dancing or fucking. I grab your right hand with mine and lead it to the cash drawer in front of you. I whisper into your ear. You inhale sharply. You crumple the cocaine dusted tender into your fist and pass it towards the purple crown royal bag I supply. I used to carry tumbled rocks in them as a kid, then cigarettes and condoms. Then my take. I wished I could be easy on you, less of an asshole, but I know you'd kill me if given the chance. I press the barrel of a gun deeper into the small of your back. Hurry. There isn't a second in this odd embrace. We are in tune. You know what my next move is, and the disgust with which you shove that money at me tells me that you know. And while our time together is brief, you will recount it for decades. The memory of me will outlast lovers and childhood friends, even grandparents. There will be mornings when you wake, and in that blissful lingering, in the cloud of your dream, you'll still see me walking past that height strip on my way out the door. Thank you. Thank you. So silly. All right. This one is called What You've Got to Do. It's a very short piece. It was just published in Punk Noir that Nate Pettigrew did a little guest appearance, editor appearance. What you've got to do. Putting her bra back on, she felt her nipple graze her wrist. Could she keep them? She'd asked the doctor. She pressed the side button on her phone. Nothing. Alone in the terror of her diagnosis, she made her decision. She reached down to the pile of her clothes folded on the blue plastic chair. Before opening the door, she peeled the corners of her mouth back to approximate an emotion other than utter terror. She returned home and waited for him in the dark. Hearing the turn of his key, she waited a moment and then she launched herself onto his back in a desperate bear hug. He thought she was messing around, and he half laughed as she wrapped the blade around his Adam's apple, like she was peeling it. It's kind of like a maniacal Eve. She held him till she felt his body convulse and sputter. With her ear pressed against his back, she listened as their hearts died. She picked up the sticky blade that lay where she dropped it. The handle is smooth and moist like a river rock. She stood straddling his body, imagining the rage of that river and the stone's cruel and destinationless journey from one hard and brutal place to another, like the shit that wears you down until you have no sharp edges left to protect you. Nice. And the last one is Fable. I'm running out of stories about him, and that feels like the worst thing you can say about someone. We had such a short time to collect them. Neighbors, we'd see each other on the weekends for the most part, raise children in each other's homes. And when you die young and in such a way where the mystery becomes the explanation, that's what happens. You become a fable, a lesson to tell naughty children to scare the shit out of them. Only the last line written in your life is remembered. Glimpses of the day, but it could be a funhouse mirror's reflection. A little backward, oblong, and confusing, I still try to match my movements with the image. What I told the officer once he slogged and lumbered his way into the living room, his keys making sounds similar to the ones I've heard in Nine-Inch Nail tracks, so produced and distant, to tell us they found your body. I am still fresh in that terror. I ask myself now, is that what happened? Or is it just the plot of a movie I watched about the doting father living a secret life who disappeared one morning after telling his wife he loved her? They found him a day later in a cornfield, shot in the head in the last desperate days of a wet, cold autumn, the leaves so yellow they glowed, twisting and twirling down with the breeze loosed from their mother by the heavy, cold raindrops. Some were found in his hair. No gun, no suspects, just an open casket, a long, jagged scar ineptly covered by a red baseball hat, just like Little Red Riding Hood, her big, trusting eyes, the grandmother, the wolf, and his big fucking teeth. And that's that. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much, Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you for reading with us. I'm always like, you always have such vivid images in your stories, Kelly. So I really appreciate that. Well, now I am super excited. I know some of you have this on order already. This is my short story collection, All in the None of You. If you don't know, one of the kind of cool things is that every story has a QR code to a song on Spotify because I listen to music all the time when I'm writing, and I have written a bunch of things that are inspired by songs. So I'm going to read one short story and then I think an excerpt of another piece. So I'm going to start with Becoming a Ghost. And the song that's paired with that is A Pair of Brown Eyes by the Young Dubliners. So, Oscar picked the castle for our last night of a 10-day trip to Ireland. We'd worn on each other like the ragged curtains that adorned the arched window looking out on the estate. And Oscar wouldn't stop complaining about the cold. What did you expect? I asked. Did you think they were going to have double paned windows and central heating? It's like 500 a night, he said. There should be heat at least. We climbed into the four-poster bed and under the thick duvet, the linens heavy with the scent of peat smoke and the sour lingering body odor of a former visitor, and faced away from each other. I awoke in the middle of the night to a howl creeping through the room, the shutters banging outside. Cold dug into my skin. I curled against Oscar and siphoned off his warmth. In the morning, we packed our things. Oscar left the bags on the wet ground, leaning against the bark of a birch tree. He held out his phone to take 3 selfies with the castle in the background. He flipped it to catch a dragonfly skimming across a pond. Slipping his phone into his back pocket, he collected the bags and complained about mine. What the fuck did you put in your bag, Macy? I can hardly lift it. I didn't put anything in it. Maybe it's that giant bottle of Irish whiskey you had to buy. We both knew it wasn't. He'd finished off that bottle halfway through the trip. My bag weighed 10 pounds over the limit at check-in. I asked the attendant to weigh it again. I had packed exactly the same things coming as going. At home, when I opened the bag, a rush of wind came out, and the cold seeped into my skin again, burrowing beneath my fingernails and making my teeth ache. I lifted out a pair of yoga pants and a t-shirt to find them shredded and wet. This is your fault for putting the bags down in the mud at that fucking castle, I said. Don't blame me. Baggage handlers must have fucked with your stuff. Too jet lagged to fight, I left it all in a heap and we went to sleep, the air in my Barstow apartment arid and still. I awoke an hour later with a start like in Ireland, the chill running deep into my pores. I shook Oscar awake. Do you feel that? I asked. The cold? He grumbled and turned toward the wall. Go back to sleep, Macy. I saw something gray move in the corner. I sat quiet with the eerie sense of eyes on me. I couldn't see. I left the apartment, seeking out the sun on my skin, and walked to the corner market in a pair of old flip-flops. The metal sculpture robots that once looked endearing on the edges of the parking lot now looked ominous. When I got home, Oscar sat on the couch and the remnants of a bottle he'd picked up at the duty-free shop swirled on the table. Even before the trip, his drinking had got on my nerves, but I tried to hold it in. Seemed unfair to take him along with me to a country known for its alcohol and needle him not to imbibe. Don't you have work early? I asked. He didn't usually stay at my place when he had to work in the morning, but now he couldn't drive. Damn, Macy, I just woke up. Give me a break. Oscar crawled out of bed before the sun rose, and when the lock clicked, I heard the echo of the howls and the cold grabbed me again. I rolled into his spot on the mattress to soak in his warmth, still trapped under the comforter. I dozed and dreamt of a peat bog we had visited in Kildare. I sat up in bed, and the sweet smell of decay filled my room, like I was back in the bog, and I thought I might still be dreaming. As I got up to go to the kitchen for coffee, I saw it, hovering over a chair, a gray figure like a mist. I stumbled back into the wall, my hands pressed against the spot where Oscar had kissed me for the first night. Kissed me the first night I brought him home 6 months before. Macy, a voice whispered, and I found myself unable to move as though the cold had frozen me in place. Macy, do not be afraid. I'm just dreaming, right? This has to be a dream. Cold wind ebbed around the floor like weeds grabbing at my ankles. I knew what it was. I'd read the myth as a little girl. Please, I don't want to die. I don't want anyone I love to die. I knew banshees were the harbingers of death, an early warning signal of what was to come. You've got it wrong, Macy, the voice whispered, and now I could see the features of a woman, withered around the eyes, with teeth missing, leathery skin. I came to protect you from it. The one who sleeps beside you will only destroy you. Is Oscar sick? Is he going to die? The Banshee shook her head and exhaled a cold breath. They always get it wrong. We don't bring death. We warn when two people should be separated. And when our warnings go unheeded, chaos can ensue. The Banshee took on a more solid form, and now I could see she had dark hair and the ends of her clothes were tied up with strips of mine. Did you follow me all the way here? Why not say something in Ireland? You weren't ready to hear it yet. But now you know. That cold you've been feeling, that's not love. Oscar texted me that afternoon. I didn't respond back. He called, and I didn't answer. When he stopped by the apartment, I didn't open the door. The longer I ignored him, the more the banshee faded away and the warmth returned to my flesh. That is how I became a ghost. Um, I'm going to read one more excerpt. This is, sorry, I marked like a whole bunch of things because I didn't know what I wanted to read today. I'm going to read a bit from The Edge of the River, which is a story that Adam actually just published in an anthology called Texas Wind. And the song that is with this story is actually like one of my favorite songs from when I was a kid. My mom used to listen to a lot of country music. It's called What Kind of Love by Rodney Crowell. And it's still like one of my favorite love songs of all time. So. Lori unloaded her tent and opened the pristine bag it had come in a few days before when she'd purchased it from a sporting goods store. She squatted down and tried to read the small print on the label on the side of the bag, but it might as well have been in a foreign language. As she struggled to snap the tent poles together, a deep voice behind her said, "Need some help?" She glanced over her shoulder and saw a man who looked to be about her age, with salt and pepper hair, light eyes, and a wide grin. He wore a worn t-shirt and shorts that showed off tan, fit calves. He stood next to a white truck in the campsite adjacent to hers. A friend of a friend invited Lori on the group camping and rafting trip, and she said yes, even though she'd never even heard of Kings Canyon before and had never had a reason to stop in Fresno. Her friend Viv, who was the liaison between the two, agreed to go too. The year before, Lori would have said no, that she and her husband had plans for the long weekend when they rented some hotel room on the coast and ate at a fancy restaurant and didn't have sex just like they didn't have it in their own bed at home. Lori's husband left after Christmas, and she spent the last 6 months alone with the dog her husband had adopted 10 years before. So at least she wasn't the only one he abandoned. Lori brought the tent along with a bikini and new shorts for the trip, and though she would never tell Viv, she'd packed some condoms just in case an opportunity arose. The friend of the friend had talked about how good-looking the guys who coordinated the trip were. Mike and Pete. They'd been organizing the summer trip for 20 years. Sometimes their wives came, sometimes their kids came. Often they came alone. But the friend of the friend assured Lori and Viv plenty of rugged, handsome single guys also showed up. Are you with the group? Lori asked as she dropped the tent bits to the ground. The rafting group, I mean. It's my first time here. I'd be Pete, he said. Lori stood up to shake his hand. She sucked in her stomach and arched her back out a bit so her small breasts were more noticeable, like she used to do when she was young and flirting. She offered her name. The more the merrier, Pete said, and he took the tent poles and wrangled them into shape. As he worked on the tent, a young woman walked around from the back of his truck. She leaned against the front of the bumper of his vehicle, brown braids down to her shoulders and shorts that stopped midway down her golden thighs. The woman looked 20-something, maybe out of college, but not long out of it. That should do it, Pete said as he finished erecting the tent. Lori wandered back to Viv's car to get her backpack and things. I just met Pete, she said. Helped pitch my tent. You should have sent him my way, Viv said, wiping sweat off her brow. I think he's preoccupied, Lori said. She pointed in the direction of his truck, where the young woman still leaned against the bumper while he unloaded bags and boxes of food. That can't be his wife, can it? Viv asked. Can't be a daughter. Maybe just a friend? I guess we'll see if they pitch two tents or one. Or if anything else gets pitched, Viv said and winked. I'm going to stop there. So I hope that anybody who gets the collection really enjoys it. Like I said earlier, there are 21 stories in the collection and one novella. If you have read Roadkill, which is a novelette that I wrote with Francois Barreau, the novella in this book kind of connects to Roadkill. One of the characters has a tie to one of the main characters in the novella. So thank you guys all for being here. I think I'll open it up to questions if anybody has any questions for me or the other readers that we've had today. And I'm going to stop recording.